Serious people who spend a lot of time in nature or far from other people. What was the creepiest, the most unexplainable thing you see? Way late, but here it goes. So starting with some background, I do a lot of snowmobiling in the winter, mostly in the mountains. Sometimes to get to a particular riding spot, I would go down an access road for a few miles. The access road branched off into a hiking trail in the summer. Near the end of the trail where the mountain starts, there's a fence line along the trail for catching rocks in the summer. On this particular day, I was excited because it had snowed the night before and I didn't see any tracks leading up the mountain. This meant that I would have an open mountain of powder to myself. All is well, I go through the open part in the fence and get up the mountain. When I came down, I was following the track I made when I roll up to the opening in the fence. I immediately noticed that there were snowshoe tracks around it, so I slowed down a bit. I was going less than 5 miles an hour when I crossed through the fence and something hit me in the face. It instantly threw my body down into the rear part of my snowmobile seat. It felt like Dwayne, The Rock Johnson clotheslined me and broke my nose in the process. When I got up, I noticed that there was a metal wire strung between the fence opening at right about neck level for someone a bit taller. I tried following the tracks, but it was deep snow and I wasn't getting anywhere sinking in. The weirdest part is that when I came back out with some friends to cut the wire down, it was gone. Me and a few of my friends went on a trip about an hour away from any major town. The place we were staying was densely wooded, but there was a pretty big opening in the middle of the woods where it is just a big field surrounded by trees. In the middle of this clearing there is a small, one-story house that looks like it has been abandoned for decades. We set up camp about 75 yards from the house, just on the edge of the clearing. My friends and I stayed 2 nights. Both nights, we heard what sounded like an elderly woman singing at around 2 a.m., and it was coming from the house. We decided we would wake up early on our last day, so we could pack up early and get out of there. Right before we left, I heard a loud noise coming from the house. The window had just been shattered. That was enough for us to bolt to the truck and get out of there. Me and my friends were playing in the woods behind our school when we were little. We found a shack that looked abandoned. There was 3 of us. I was in the back of the line as we went into it. All of a sudden the first kid comes booking out and we all turn and run. I looked back real quick while running, and there was the dirtiest man I had ever seen screaming and chasing us. I turned back forward and sprinted harder than I ever have in my life until I was out of the woods. Apparently a couple of years later some older kids went into the same woods and beat him to death with a baseball bat. My friends and I go on what we call hobo walks. This involves going to my grandpa's house in the country, walking through the woods till we find train tracks, follow them till we get to a road, then take that road back to grandpa's. It's a known route by now to us. We were about halfway through our walk when we noticed a new path leading off of the tracks. We followed it into a clearing in the woods, and right in the middle was a deer skull. It looked like it was cleaned and placed there with care. The path had turned into a circle around the edges of the clearing, giving it a stage-like appearance. It was pretty creepy, and we got out of there fast. One of my friends took the skull, and it is currently decorating his shelf of other found bones. Brushing my teeth in backwoods Utah. We had dug this sort of pit thing. It's the middle of the night, no light pollution, so dark as shit. So there I am brushing my teeth over the big hole in the ground, and I get a very weird feeling that I'm being watched, like right across from me. Nobody else was awake. So I said, fuck this shit, and went back to the tent. Next morning I see huge fucking paw prints right on the other side of the hole. I had been standing 2 feet from a mountain lion. I think this story scares me more than anything else on this thread, even the potentially supernatural stuff. I know how stealthy/creepy my wife's cat is, and what it feels like to just wake up to her watching me in the dark, the cat, not my wife. It's freaky, so knowing that a gigantic version of this particular type of killing machine was watching me in the darkness would give me permanent willies. Knowing that that cat also made a decision at some point to let you live wouldn't help either. Glad you survived. Pretty much the entirety of the Adirondacks can be creepy at night, despite its daytime beauty. I was camping once, and it was on a campground with campsites and outhouse bathrooms. This particular time, though, there weren't many campers and we were away from any other occupied sites, way up in the hill. I woke up with this urge to pee in the middle of the night. The bathroom was on a hill back in the woods. You had to climb up a rock path to get to it. One side was women's, other side was men's. It had wooden doors that didn't latch. You would just pull it, and then it would slam closed. I'm inside doing my business When I hear footsteps that are clearly human crunching on the dirt and rocks, then it stops. Neither the men or women door opens/slams. Silence. Then more crunching steps around the building, then they stop. You can hear everything because it's so quiet up there. I never heard the steps walk away or down the path. When I came outside the bathroom, there was no one in sight. I couldn't get back to the campsite fast enough. I heard strange noises in the woods of the Adirondacks that I have never been able to identify. It was the middle of the night. I was leading a 3-day hike for my summer camp. I got 12 8-10-year-old girls, a foreign counselor from Kazakhstan, and a 16-year-old CIT with me. We were staying the night in a lean-to in some tents on the side of a mountain. At about 1 a.m., one of the girls in the lean-to yells over to our tent to let us know she heard something in the woods. I came fully awake to a loud, low-breathing sound, like a long, slow exhalation of breath, almost deep sighing. It was really loud and very close by. I get out of the tent and can't see anything while shining my flashlight around. The girls had all woken up and started freaking out. I have to carry the two in our tent to the lean-to because they are too frightened to walk the 10 feet. We all pile in there, and the sound continues moving around the camp. It lasted for hours. It sounded angry and persistent and continuously circled us. I told stories and sang songs to try and distract the girls, but every time the sound would come, they would all start crying again. As soon as the sun came up, we packed everything and got out of there. I was 18 and I was terrified myself. The girls were near hysterical and our foreign exchange counselor was losing all composure. I got yelled at by the camp director for bringing the girls back, but there was no way I wanted to spend another night on that site. We were sent to a different site closer to camp. It had to be some animal, but I have listened to all of the animal noises I can think of and none of them matched the sounds I heard that night. It was scary as hell, whatever it was. I'm so glad someone mentioned the Adirondacks. As a child around 12, I think, I went there with a small group, and we were meant to stay around 5 nights, trailing from lean to lean-to. The first 2 nights passed with no issues. The third night was an extremely restless one because of all the weird sounds we kept hearing. We would all wake up around the same time, sitting up in our sleeping bags, straining to hear, because the noises were so unsettling. The fourth night was awful. Cracking sticks and a weird low hum/mumble. I can't explain it. I'd have to make the sound for you. It sounded like what prayer in a foreign tongue sounds like something you should be able to understand but don't. I could also hear the 2 trip leaders arguing. They were trying to figure out what it was and what they should do. The man suggested he start banging pots, thinking it was a bear. The woman didn't think it was a bear and kept saying, "I'd never heard that sound before." Who knows what it was, but as a child, with my back to a really scary, unusual sound in the woods, and the 2 leaders whisper freaking out about it, it was grotesquely terrifying. We ended up leaving the next morning. Though we were due a final night, they told our parents it was weather-related. I don't remember any weather, but I'll never forget the sounds.